For our North Country history lesson, another 100-year anniversary.
Emily Griffin takes us to Great Bend.
The Great Bend Fire Department currently responds to 200 emergency calls annually. There's shiny new engines and ample space to house them. But it started with humble beginnings in 1924.
This year, the Great Bend Fire Department turns 100 years old. This Saturday, the 29th, the fire department is going to throw a 100-year anniversary celebration. We come from having one single fire engine and a handful of guys to 6-7 trucks now and 40 members.
In the early years of the fire department, these buildings did not exist. It was in 1972 that they became home to the fire crew. While much has changed over the century, much has remained, like the department's firematics team, the Cobras. Also, the fire department's mission:
to protect life and property of our community.
Celebrating a century of service, the department will have a parade, a building dedication, vendors, music, games, and more in gratitude.
This 100-year milestone is significant in light of all the recent manpower shortages and closures that affect a lot of fire departments and small communities. It just reminds us about how lucky we are to be able to keep the doors open and continue responding.
Emily Griffin, 7 News.